awkward is a nudge from our modern brain that says, careful, there's risk ahead, and other people are watching you. That feeling tries to protect us. It tells us to zip our lips instead of speaking up. It tells us to just take the offered salary instead of negotiating. It tells us Helen isn't such a terrible name for a Pakistani girl, is it? Sorry, Mom and Dad.
That is Henna Pryor speaking on those moments you find yourself feeling less confident and awkward in the workplace. Happens to the best of us, but Henna says we can turn those insecurities into superpowers. So the author of the new book, Good Awkward, is here with a few ways to do just that. Henna, it's so good to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. So happy to be here.
Yeah, okay, we have so much to talk about. Even during the break, I'm telling you, what she is talking about and what she wrote about is truly fascinating. But let's start with this. You say awkwardness isn't a weakness to fix, but that it can actually be a professional asset. What?
Yeah, everyone thinks, okay, this awkward feeling, I need to get rid of it, right? I need to eliminate it. It's a weakness. It's holding me back. And the truth of the matter is when we actually understand the emotion and what it represents, it is a very human, very universal emotion that everyone experiences, not just those of us that think of ourselves as awkward, but the most confident people we know. They've just learned how to embrace it and lean into it. And so if we can start to understand the emotion, how it operates inside of us, and how we actually can work with it instead of against it, it can become a superpower in the workplace.
Wow. And Henna, you mentioned to me during the break that this isn't a topic that people have really tackled yet. Like, it's just kind of, you hear about being awkward and, you know, yeah, it can be great, but nobody has taken a deep dive into this in the way that you have.
Yeah, I think what is interesting is we all feel it. We use this word, oh, that was awkward.
All the time.
I feel awkward, right?
All the time.
I've never met someone that has never felt awkward in their life, and yet there hadn't yet been an exploration of how it actually holds us back at work. And so when I dove into the research, so much came in about the influence that it has on our risk-taking, on our courage, on our confidence, and that to me is what we're all looking for at work. And so it's another way to talk about what's standing in the way.
Fascinating. Okay, so we're going to do a dive into this right now, the power of good awkward. First, you say just understanding awkwardness's purpose, right?
Yes. So awkwardness is a social emotion, which means that typically if we are in the kitchen and we sing a song lyric all wrong, if nobody's there to see it,
who cares?
Who cares? We don't feel awkward. But if all of a sudden we're with a group of friends and we sing the song lyric totally wrong and everyone's like, what did you just do? Right? Then we feel awkward. It's a social emotion. And it is an uncomfortable emotion. It's an emotion of discomfort. And ultimately it happens when the person that we believe ourselves to be is all of a sudden at odds with the person on display. In other words, the person we are feels different than the person that they see in that moment. And so when we start to think about that emotion at work, especially, we want to appear a certain way to our colleagues, to our bosses, to our direct reports. And when we start to see that that gap is there, that kind of who we want to be in that moment and who they actually see, it helps us understand what awkwardness represents, which is this gap space that we have to play in.
Okay, another point that you make is what we tell ourselves truly matters.
Right. I think most people, when they gaffe or misstep or blunder, we have this narrative, right? This kind of negative story of, I'm an idiot. Now my boss thinks I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
Oh, I just repeated the thing that was already said. Like, is she a big dummy? You know, is qualified to be in this job? And the truth is, those negative stories we tell ourselves about what awkwardness represents are exactly what causes us to freeze the next time we want to speak up, the next time we want to take a risk. We need to tell ourselves more redemptive stories. We need to reframe this as, hey, I tried something, and learn from that the next time.
What a great point. And I'm sure to let it go, right? Because those are the awkward encounters are the ones that like keep you up at night. It's like 2 years later and you're laying in bed and you like remember and it's like, let it go, right?
In the shower, we tend to ruminate on those awkward moments because in those moments we think we're the only one. And we never are. Everyone experiences them. We're never alone in those moments.
Gosh, truer words, truer words. All right, number 3, and that's just how to view the self-identity gap. What is that?
The self-identity gap is a term that I coined to describe those two places that I started to mention, which is the person we believe ourselves to be and then the person who other people see on display. So in those moments, sometimes, like you said, those moments can last forever. We can think about it for hours afterwards. Sometimes that awkward moment is just a blip. It's a conversation. But in that moment, we're in that in-between space. And so it's getting very clear on around what that in-between space represents. We have to kind of start to bridge that gap between who we are, what we know we're capable of, and what we think other people see and the approval that we're trying to chase. Getting comfortable in that middle is how we start to get comfortable with our awkwardness.
Getting comfortable in the middle, a great point there. All right, so how can we benefit from our awkwardness, even if it feels kind of cringy?
Yeah, lots of ways, but the first thing I would point out is just the universality needs to be understood. No one is exempt. The most confident person you know, the leader you look up to, the celebrity that you think has it all together, they feel awkward too. To eliminate awkwardness is to eliminate uncertainty in life. We can't. I haven't cracked the code on that yet. I don't know if you have, but we can't. And so understanding that this is everyone's emotion, everyone's experience, the people that we look at as confident are the people that have embraced it and they own it and they lean into it. We can also start to name it and use it to our advantage. We all feel awkward at times, and rather than running from it or pretending it didn't happen, it's so powerful to say, wow, that was awkward. Ooh, that was a cringe. And that actually makes you appear more confident when you open it into that place of owning it entirely. Actually has the adverse effect. You look more confident and courageous as a result.
How fascinating, truly. Okay, so we're gonna move to this one. The next point is letting go of approval, but I want to go to improv training. You say that that is a way that you can actually help with awkwardness. What?
Yes.
Improv, huh?
Yeah, so improv, people don't realize it's not the same as stand-up comedy. It's not rehearsed. Improv is essentially built on a foundation of you don't know what's going to happen next. You're sort of feeding off of each other. It's all about embracing uncertainty. It's all about being agile. And so a lot of us, when we think about awkwardness as an emotion, it's a social emotion. It's, I said this thing, I thought someone else was going to say something different than what I expected. And what improv training does is it creates this muscle around having to flip on a dime, having this ability to hear someone say something and then maybe it wasn't what you expected, but now you got to work with it and toss it right back, right? Maybe it took a turn, but now you got to stay in that space. And so building those social muscles, strengthening them, is something that improv training really helps with, and it's actually really fun, even for folks that are terrified of it.
Yeah, I'd never thought of it in the the scope of being useful in so many different ways, though. That's really interesting.
Yeah, and most people don't think of it professionally, but lately it's just gotten more and more popular. There's a bunch of universities, a bunch of big companies that have adopted it as part of their cultural training, and it's showing tons of benefits.
It makes sense. All right, so you've done some pretty interesting things, but obviously we got to see the clip of you giving a TED Talk. What was that experience like? I mean, were there any moments you felt nervous? Like, what are you thinking at this moment?
Of course. I mean, I'm a professional keynote speaker for a living now, so the nerves are less, but I had never done a TEDx, and so I was nervous, and there was awkward moments. There was one or two times where I'd run this at home a million times, a few friends, and certain lines at home my kids thought were hilarious, and they didn't get a laugh in the TEDx, right? And then other ones that I didn't think were funny at all, they got a laugh, and hey, more awkward than anything, it was when you don't expect something to happen, or you do and it doesn't happen.
Sure.
That happens all the time, but the truth is, part of what I preach is just roll with it, right? Embrace it. Woof, that didn't go how I thought it was going to go. And you keep going. And I think the TEDx was just a perfect example of what happens every day.
I love that. Well, congratulations on your success. And I got to tell you, I mean, what you've talked about today, I think has been so interesting. And hopefully folks at home were able to glean a lot from this as well. But how can we keep up with you on social media, Henna?
I'm Henna Pryor everywhere, LinkedIn, Instagram, and the book, goodawkward.com, has lots of details about the book. I'm really proud of it. And so I love to make new social friends.
Love it. Henna, thank you so much for coming in and sharing this with us.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. And you can pick up Good Awkward from Henna Pryor right now.